Live from Dallas-Fort Worth, this is WFAA News.
We seldom bring out the Sam Houston Bible. We do it at inaugurations and other special occasions. And this is a very significant and serious occasion that will be in the history books.
Well, with a nod to history and after months of waiting, the impeachment trial of suspended Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton began this morning at 9 a.m. It is going on right now down in Austin. A motion to dismiss the charges, though, fails.
I'm here because a lot of people in Texas can't be here, and I'm here for them.
Folks from Houston to Denton and across the state line up early at the Texas Capitol, hoping for a seat to watch this historic trial unfold. Welcome to Midday. I'm Kara Sewell.
And I'm Mark Istook, and senators now acting as jurors as one of the most powerful men in the state of Texas fights to stay in office. And we're showing you a live look at the trial right now, and you can see folks hanging out there in that room. You've got all the Texas state senators acting as jury members, and we've already heard several motions this morning fail.
Now, we do have team coverage, gavel to gavel, of this moment in history because we know there is a lot to keep up with today. And we're going one by one. Not only did they fail to dismiss all of the impeachment charges, but they were going through each article as well earlier. So what does that mean? Well, leading off our coverage this morning is WFAA's Chris Sadeghi, who has been covering Ken Paxton for quite a while now, Chris. Yeah, he's in Austin at the state capitol. Okay, Chris, this is a long day of proceedings.
Yeah, Kara, and if Ken Paxton and his attorneys thought they might be able to avoid this trial altogether, it does not look like that is going to happen as the voting is underway right now in the Senate chamber. The team sought to dismiss some or all of the articles of impeachment. They just needed a majority, but if the first few tallies are any indication, it appears they're going to have to face this trial. The first vote that would have dismissed all the motions was shot down by a count of 24-6, and all the other motions to dismiss since have also failed by similar margins. But they are going to go through the formalities, and barring any surprises, opening statements will take place once they get through them all. There's a lot of interest in how this historic impeachment proceeding will play out. Not only did media from across the state line up early to secure a seat in the chamber, but so did the general public. And from talking to those who lined up, it felt like a mostly pro-Paxton crowd here on day one. We know a group from Collin County GOP was bringing a bus down this morning. I spoke to a man from Denton who woke up at 1 in the morning to drive down in support of Paxton. They are here for day one. We will see how this interest sustains over the course of this trial now that it appears that we are in for the long haul. Mark and Kara.
There's a lot of early votes here. So what does this mean for the rest of the trial?
Yeah, you certainly don't want to read too much into these votes since we haven't heard any testimony or any evidence. Those first few early votes were by more than the 2/3 that would be needed to remove Paxton from office. However, just within the last few minutes, there was a 20-10 vote. That did not meet the 2/3 threshold. Again, you do not want to read too much into it, but at least at this point in the trial, before any evidence, there have been enough senators show that they're at least willing to vote in Paxton's favor to keep him in office. We will see how that changes over the course of this trial, Kara.
Yeah, a lot of analysis going on. All right, Chris, thanks for the perspective and the update. We have seen Paxton's wife, Angela, in the Senate chamber. She is a state senator, so she can be there listening to testimony and deliberations, but she will not vote on her husband's guilt and innocence. And a lot of interest in this trial. We were there this morning as a group. Pray for Paxton gathered to make that drive from Collin County down to Austin. They said they want to show their support for him.
And that this is happening is unfathomable. Unfathomable. It's beyond words, the scrutiny that he has come under.
Now, before taking his current office, Paxton represented Collin County in the state house, and he still has a home there.
Now, we know this is a very historic trial in the state of Texas, something we have not seen in the Lone Star State in more than a century, and it certainly is a complicated one. So to help us break it all down is Cal Jilson, a political science professor from SMU, to help us unpack it all. First of all, thank you for joining us this morning, Cal.
Thank you, Mark.
So let's break down what Paxton is accused of, because you had 20 articles, 16 that are up right now, 4,000 pages worth of documents if you want to sift through it all. There is a lot to soak in here.
Yeah, there is a lot to soak in. There were 20 charges in the indictment that came out of the House, and they had to do with abuse of office mostly, particularly the first half dozen or so, the way in which Ken Paxton used the Attorney General's office to help Nate Paul, a developer and contributor to his campaigns. There are some elements of bribery as well. So they're serious charges, and we are going to see a full trial, apparently.
And just to be clear for our viewers, it's not a criminal trial, rather. The result of this could be possible removal from office. Can you break down for our viewers just how this trial is set up, how it's going to work?
Yeah, it's important to recognize that this is not a judicial proceeding where you have a judge and you have a jury and there are various rules of evidence, that sort of thing. This is a legislative process. The impeachment articles were passed by the Texas House 121 to 23. Texas House is majority Republican, so lots of Republicans voted for these impeachment charges, and now you've got a majority Republican Senate, 19 to 12 Republican, that will hear evidence and vote serially on each of these charges as to whether or not to convict Attorney General Paxton. And so for the next couple of weeks, we're going to hear that evidence. What we saw this morning was a dozen or so votes by the Paxton side to dismiss all or some of these impeachment articles. All of them, as your reporter said, failed. Only one of them got 10 votes, which would block a 2/3 vote to convict. So right now, we're going to just about getting ready to hear from Lieutenant Governor Patrick on some motions that he'll decide upon. And then there will be opening statements by the prosecution and by the Paxton side.
And we know that those opening statements, both sides will get 60 minutes to make those statements. But looking back at the voting process, we know it would take a 2/3 majority to get Paxton out of office. Now, when you go back to the original impeachment effort by the House back in May, you saw a lot of Republicans vote for impeachment here. Is there anything in reading the tea leaves there that may indicate just how this trial may go?
Yeah, the House vote, month or so ago was 121 to 23, which means that more than half of Republicans in the Texas House voted to impeach the Attorney General. And now we've got a trial in the Senate. And on the first vote to dismiss all the charges, it was something like 15 to 6 or 14 to 6. So it was a lopsided margin not to dismiss the charges. Now we're going to hear evidence and testimony, and it will take all the Democrats, 12 Democrats, and 9 Republicans voting to sustain one of these impeachment charges to remove the Attorney General from office. And what we've seen so far, we haven't seen evidence yet. So once the evidence is also put out there publicly, it's fairly difficult to see how the Attorney General is not convicted on one or more counts.
We have talked about how historic this is because you have only seen 2 Texas officials be impeached before. It's been quite a while. How much of this procedure had to be figured out before things got started today?
Yeah, there was an impeachment of a statewide official back in the 1880s, and then another one in 1917. And then a judge was impeached 50 years or so ago. So this is something that very rarely happens. And each time it does happen, a set of rules is passed to direct the impeachment process. A lot of similarity with previous impeachments, but some of the rules are slightly different. We're seeing so far today a very cautious and careful conduct of this early impeachment process by Lieutenant Governor Patrick. But pretty soon we're going to get into a more open presentation of witnesses and evidence with some pretty high-powered lawyers shooting at each other. So it's going to get a lot more exciting than it's been so far this morning.
Well, that's how we do things here in Texas Big. Cal Jilson, thank you for your analysis this morning. You know, trying to read the tea leaves, it's hard to tell how this thing's going to shake out, but maybe we'll get a little bit more insight as things proceed. Of course, we are offering extensive coverage of this trial that you will not get anywhere else. Right now, investigative reporter Tanya Iser for WFAA is live streaming on our streaming app, WFAA Plus, and you can catch her on our digital channels as well, like on Facebook and YouTube, as she's joined by political experts throughout this trial with insight and analysis of that testimony, which is upcoming.